It's a pleasure to see you after many years. Today is a very auspicious day. It's the Keval Gyan Kalyanak of Mahavir Swami. So I'll start by praying him to show us the correct path so that we can follow his path to fulfillment. Meeting Acharya Mahapragya ji was a turning point in my life. He was having Chaumasa here in Gandhinagar. And one day he sent for me at about noon and said somebody came and said he wants to meet me. And when I went for his darshan, he said, you must work for science and Jainism. So that was a big adesh from him. And I've been trying to follow it ever since. So I'll start this talk by bowing to him, not only because he walked across India, its width and length, and reached Ahimsa, and not because he was only, also a great saint, but because he gave us this knowledge from Agams by translating together with Mahendra Muni and others in a very readable way in English and Hindi. And this knowledge is a really treasure house. And being incapable myself of knowing about it, I really bow down to him for all his efforts. And I would like to thank Samniji and for giving me this opportunity of paying my tribute to Acharya Mahapragya ji and also to Dr. Deepak Jain. It's a bonus to meet him after several years. So we are meeting here today under very trying times of this corona pandemic all over. But everything, I understand, happens according to some law. So this big global event, which is actually a problem, we can turn into an opportunity and trying to see what these laws are under which this world operates. Science also postulates that there are laws which govern all the processes in the universe, and so does Jainism. So there is much in common. And I'll argue that we are having similar laws in science and in Jainism, and we have to present to the world in a proper modern perspective so that these laws are accepted. Now, first thing we learn from this pandemic is that there is a lady in Wuhan in China, and she has affected so many people in the world, and even those whom he had no contact in a small village in Tamil Nadu or in US or somewhere. There's no, they don't know each other, but she has affected the whole world. So this gives us a feeling that the whole world is connected and one. What Acharya Umaswati said, Paropagraho Jivanam. All life depends on each other. But we have to understand this one in a modern perspective. This is okay if I talk in English or Hindi is preferred, I don't know. Is it okay? Okay. So, this oneness of the universe, in physics we call it the law of entanglement or interdependence. It is not merely interdependence, but it is much more than that. It is entanglement. We are all entangled with each other like a cobweb. and we can't disentangle us on this earth, even if we want to. So this oneness, this we can call as law of coexistence. There's nothing like existence in this world. We only coexist. Uh, I'll give you a little example that if you have a, a little plant of rose flowers in your garden, we might think it exists, but actually it really doesn't exist. It exists because of you. If you don't water it for a week, it will be gone. So everybody's existence depends on somebody else. But if you go to a forest and there are thousands of trees, if you go after 10,000 years, they will still be there because they coexist. So coexistence is the key, and we have forgotten it. And that is why we are in a trouble. In this trouble due to this coronavirus all over the earth, because we ignored the laws of coexistence. So sometimes this thought will come to us that why we have this big pandemic. Is it the revenge of the earth whom we have exploited so much? We have polluted it. We have used its resources in abundance, and we have ruined the ecosystem. Is it because of that that the earth is taking a revenge on us? Or is it the revenge of the other living beings who have a right of coexistence on this earth with us? Billions upon billions are being killed for food and entertainment in this world. So is it a revenge? Because is it the Newton's third law that action and reaction are equal? Is that operating, and now they are reacting to the action which humans have taken? So this is very profound, and I like to argue that Jainism, as also other religions which have developed in India, are eternal. Eternal means they are going to exist forever because they are the laws of nature. The laws of nature, the laws of science, and laws of Jainism or other religions developed here are same. But over the millennia that is passed since Mahavir Swami, we have actually forgotten about these very profound concepts, and we have concentrated more on trivialities. Actually, Jainism has become something like, a list of do's and don'ts. One gentleman just said, "Oh, you eat potatoes, so how can you be a Jain?" Now, I told him, of course, that no philosophy or darshan can be so weak that if you eat something, you are not a Jain. I mean, so we have come out to very small trivialities about things which we should do and not do. But Jain religion is actually much more profound. I had a chance to study it for last many years. And what I came to understand is that actually Jainism is so profound. It is like a crystal ball, so that you have the correct view of the world. You develop this correct worldview and you live a purposeful life. So the whole Jainism can be summed up by a few laws, a few doctrines, and a few sutras. And I like to concentrate on them. So one I talked about is this Parasparupgraho Jivanam, that the whole, this we can call as the law of coexistence, or in physics we call it as entanglement. And that means that there is a oneness. You can imagine the whole earth as one creature, and everything supports every other part of the body. the geosphere, the biosphere, the atmosphere, the hydrosphere. The second law is the law of karma, which of course everybody practices. And this is the same as the law of causality in science. The law of causality means for every cause, there is an action. For every cause, there is an effect, and there is no effect which has no cause. And this we practice all the time in physics and chemistry and so on. So this is also common. Only thing is that the law of karma in Jainism is applicable to living as well as non-living beings, whereas physics only concentrates on the physical world. The third one I would like to list here as a fundamental law is the Kram-Baddha Paryaya, which we call in physics as determinism. That if you know the condition of a body at a time t, and you know all the parameters, you can predict how it will behave in future, and you can trace its activity back in time. And this is the same as Kram-Baddha Paryaya, that everything happens according to determinism. Then there is law of conservation. The law of conservation we apply all the time in chemistry and physics and other sciences. And this is what you say, that nothing can be destroyed, nothing can be created. All the six dravyas which are there, they are going to exist forever. So these laws are common to science as well as Jainism. And then we have this Anekantavad, which in quantum physics we call it as a law of complementarity, which says all the properties together gives you a complete picture of a thing. But of course, Anekantavad is a general term used for three doctrines: Anekantvad, Syadvad, and Naivvad. So these three, Anekantvad relates to the object, Naivvad relates to the observer, the subject, and Syadvad relates to the knowledge. So these three things together, if I may explain what Anekantvad says, is we call it the law of multiplicity, that everything is changing all the time. The paryaya, the mode changes. So everything means anything y, if I want to put it in mathematical terms, then it has essence E and mode M, which changes with time. So this is the multiplicity of modes. And Naivvad is the perspectivism, that it depends on your point of view, what you are seeing, with what perspective you are seeing it. And Syadvad is related to the knowledge that there is no single truth. The truth also is multiple. So all these 5 laws and 3 doctrines more or less gives you a complete picture of what Jainism is, and the same things exist in scientific studies. I like to sum up the whatever we know about Jainism in 4 sentences, and the rest are all corollaries, or they, what I say, they emanate from just these few things which I have described. The sutras are that जो जिसको आप सुख समझते हैं वो अंततः दुख में बदल जाता है. अंततः finally it is only misery. That is number 1. In this world, whatever you think is give you happiness is finally a source of misery to you. The second one is the cause of this misery is karma. Karma is सब दुख का मूल है. And the third one is that कर्म का निदान ज्ञान से होता है. That jnana is the solution to karma. And the fourth one I would say is that the way to obtain jnana is dhyan. So meditation is the source of all knowledge, and knowledge can remove karma, and karma can remove misery. So this is in a nutshell, and this is how we have to present this to the modern world, because we have been, confining this all these concepts of Jainism in a very, what I would say, traditional way, and the number of Jains in the world is decreasing. The value of Jainism is not recognized by other people, although this is the most important thing today that world would like to follow, so that they are peaceful and they can live happily with a purpose. I just quote a few things here to bring out that uh, most modern researchers use some of the Jain concepts. You might have heard about bosons. Everybody knows about Higgs boson, which was discovered a few years ago. Now, half of the world is made of bosons. And this concept of boson has come out of Jainism, the Satyendranath Bose concept. He conceived, because in our Agams it is written that one Pradesh can contain many Parmanus. And this concept was not there in science before. In science, they said one space point can only contain one particle. Now here, the concept that infinite number of particles can be contained in one Pradesh, this is the concept which basically S.N. Bose came with. And this has revolutionized the whole behavior of particles in physics. So many such concepts have come, and if I may quote from the thesis of Samni Chaitanya Pragyaji, she has mentioned about Parmanu, that Parmanu have many types of motions. They oscillate, vibrate, they have a wobble, and they have linear motion, and so on. Sometimes they have and sometimes they don't. And this is all coming out very recently after we have high-powered scanning electron microscopes and so on. When we see the motion of molecules and atoms, then we come to know that whatever written in Bhagavati Sutra and quoted in another thesis by Dr. Chaitanya Pragyaji is really so profound. Now, I would like to mention here that two Nobel Prizes recently in 2016 and 2017, that is in the subject of physiology and medicine, have come out and been given on Jain concepts. One, the Japanese scientists had this concept of autophagy. Autophagy means eating yourself, actually. Very simple. It says that you have in your body this trillions of cells. Many of them die, and many of them are converted into CO2, carbon dioxide, when we breathe in oxygen, and are thrown out. But some, because there are billions and billions, a few will remain dead cells in the body, and to cleanse them, you need to fast. Because when you fast, then the living cells, they can't remain hungry, so they will eat away the scrap and dead bodies left inside. And the body will be cleaned of these dead cells and will become pure. So this is a concept which led to the work of autophagy, and this Japanese scientist got the Oshumi, got Nobel Prize for 2016. And in 2017, three scientists, Hall, Rosbach, and Young in USA, they got Nobel Prize for 2017 on the control of human metabolism by the sun. They say that, it was known in Jainism for a long time, we do chovyar and don't eat in the night and so on. But they showed that some kind of protein is produced in the night, which inhibits the metabolism in the body, and the behavior, the hormone release, the blood pressure, the body temperature, all depends on the cycle of the sun. So whenever there's a mismatch between these activities and this internal biological clock, which is governed by this solar phase day to day, then you get these diseases. So you see, what I want to bring out is that there are many concepts in our agams and in our Jainism which are exploited, and all this, of course, they do some very good work. Techniques are available, experimental work is being done. But all this credit is going to the Western scientists. And I have a big list of things here. And a very bad feeling we get because there was, of course, let me quote this Harvard study which came by Dr. Heather Weir 2 years ago on aging, fasting, relation between fasting and aging. And he said that cells' declining ability to process energy increases with time, and the mitochondria provide some triphosphate, which is the source of energy, and that reduces. So fasting for 8 hours or more helps in activating this phosphate and bolsters the brain power, and ketone is produced, and it helps in many diseases. So this is very good. But in this book, this report, they mention Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, all have fasting rituals, but they don't even mention Jainism, because it is not their fault. I think we have not presented to the world the strong points of Jainism. If you go to a school in US, as I did, and ask the children, then they will tell you exactly that they want so much protein, so much minerals, so many calories per day. And this is required for good health. And then I told them that this is good, but you need to do fasting for 1 day a week, or at least miss one meal. Then they say, no, this is not taught to them, but this is very essential. So what I want to point out is that we have to present Jainism in the modern perspective to the world to get full appreciation for the concepts which exist in our agams. And actually, the time is right now, is the best time, because you will see technology has developed so much that you can take one molecule and see its path throughout the body. You can find out the pathway or the neurological activity can be monitored. The chemical pathways can be monitored. The karma theory can be proved, how the ghati karma and aghati karma operate. These technologies exist. The only thing is we have lost sight of doing academic work and research. And we are concentrating on some daily routine things, which of course have their own value and are very useful, but that is not all what Jainism is all about. So one of the things which we need to um, bring out is the scientific foundation of all these concepts should be brought out. I have a big list of things here which are all mentioned in Agams, but we have never been able to uh, bring them out uh, properly and present to the Western world. Uh, I mentioned about Bose statistics, about the dimensionless Parmanu, and now in Jainism they say there are three types of matter: Visparshya, Chatursparshya, and Ashtasparshya. But this world we see is only Ashtasparshya. We don't have technology to see the Chatursparshya particles or the Visparshya Parmanus. So the world is working on what they can see and observe, but we have not been able to develop techniques to prove some of these concepts. And this is the time I would say that we should work on it. There are, if I just mention one more thing, not only qualitatively and conceptually, but also quantitatively, many of the things agree with whatever is written in Agams. For example, the climatic cycles of 21,000 years and 41,000 years, the fifth and sixth ara, exactly match the climatic cycles on the earth as we have determined in our own laboratory here, working on these deep sea sediments which show temperature and climate cycles of 21,000 years and 41,000 years. Similarly, there are lots of things in mathematics, large numbers, the concept of series, numerals, and permutation and combination, and decimal system and power and all this. Many of these are mentioned in the book by Mahaviracharya in the 8th century or somewhere there. But credit for all this is going to European mathematicians because they discovered it independently and we failed to present it to them in a proper logical way. And of course, we always claim this is written in our Agams, but nobody would believe unless we come out with a proof and talk in a language in which these people understand. For example, the concept of indescribability, that there are things which cannot be described, that is very new in this physics. They are coming in the quantum mechanics. Now they have things which cannot be described either mathematically or in a language, but still that is one of the solutions. So I would like to say that this particular aspect of Jainism, which we have put on the back burner, taking the concepts and proving them scientifically, its time has come, and I think we should, as a society, try to include this in our activities beside what so many things are being done. So this is what we are trying to do at the Science and Spirituality Research Institute, which we have here at Ahmedabad. And I would invite all of you to join us and try to do things which are which will establish some of the basic concepts of Jainism properly. To just give one example, currently there's a lot of work going on in consciousness all over the world, because many scientists have come to realize that they cannot explain all the phenomena, particularly biological phenomena, without the concept of consciousness. But they are going on a, I would say, according to Jainism, a wrong track. They say consciousness is a property which generates by itself when neurons in the brain achieve a certain complexity. Now, this is very contradictory to what our Jainism says. It says consciousness is actually a property or activity of the soul. But they are trying to do it physically. When neural network becomes very complex, then just like the jinn appears in Aladdin's chirag, the consciousness appears, the chetna will manifest itself. I think that looks very improbable to me, but that is one field in which our Jain agams and Jain scholars can guide the scientific investigation of consciousness. Because what they are trying to do is that they're trying to see that they are trying to define consciousness as a decision-making process by which a decision is made out of various options. And this is done by probability theory, by quantum mechanics, because in neurons you have small tubules and tubulins, and they become so small that they don't follow this normal classical mechanics, but quantum mechanics, and they can choose one option out of the many. So what I've tried to bring out is the importance of academic work, the importance of research, because Jainism, it is not only for bringing value to the Jain concepts, but because this is what is required today in this troubled world, that we start believing in coexistence, we start believing in karma theory, because once somebody believes in karma theory, then the best thing is that if something wrong is done to him, he doesn't go and blame others. And if something bad happens to him, then he will say, it is my own karma, I am myself responsible for it, nobody else is. So he will face it squarely and happily without grudge. So these things are very important in life. And in today's situation, where we are face to face with the death, so many people are dying. This is the Jain style, the Jain lifestyle is most needed, where you minimize your requirements, you minimize consumerism, you save your ecosphere, you save your earth, your biosphere, geosphere. And as Einstein said, when an electron vibrates, the whole universe shakes. Now, this is not what Jainism says yet, but the concept is there that you should not disturb anything, because you make small change, the whole universe changes. So these are the things. I think it is our duty to bring these points out and bring them out with the present logic, in the present way, and explain to the world, because that is the only way we can save the earth and the civilization from an imminent destruction. I think we are heading towards that. And as you know, when earth goes through a chaotic situation, a catastrophe, the linear changes are no more there. In normal times, the earth behaves in a linear fashion, that if you produce this much carbon dioxide or burn this much fuel, this much temperature will increase. But when it exceeds the limit, then it changes its state, and it will acquire such a position that it may become impossible for us to survive. If I may explain, I just gave you the example of water, that if you heat it from 0 to 99.9 degrees, it proceeds in a linear fashion. The temperature will increase, but nothing much will happen. But as soon as it reaches 100 degrees, it acquires a different state. It becomes steam. And then if the earth similarly acquires some new state, that is maybe the temperature will become 100 degrees and we can't even survive here. So it is not only to get credit for Jainism or to take its concept to the people, but to save the earth and save humanity. It is our duty that we understand these laws. We present them as laws of nature, not as a religious law. And we try to convince people to adopt a lifestyle which is sustainable and which does minimum disturbance to other people or other things in the world. So this is what I just wanted to say today. And if there are any questions, I'll be very happy to answer them. Thank you.
Pragnesh.
Jai Jinendra.
Okay.
Jai Jinendra, this is Sapan Bafna. Professor Bhandari, thank you very much. आपने इतने आसान शब्दों में हमको समझाया, and I think that was the real awakening thing for me. Is that I'll speak on with full honesty here. Sometimes when we hear that Jain is scientific more from a faith side, it does not connect with the logical mind, and we either believe just because of the faith, or we just don't believe at all, because we get lost in so many rituals and dogmas, as you said. But understanding in these clear terms is much more better and connects us with Jainism more strongly as a way of life. So thank you for that. My question is, as we heard Deepak ji as well earlier, we are trying to connect Jainism in the academic world. Of course, Samnijis are doing a lot of good work. Temples are doing a lot of good work. Do you have any practical suggestions as to what are we still missing maybe in this whole link? We are making efforts in all direction, but I don't think so we are getting any reaction from people who are not Jains, I would say. Even if anything, even Jains are moving away. So, is there any practical suggestion you have found to link with more people in this logical way?
See, if you make if you propose a new concept and prove it scientifically, I think people will follow. Even before Bhagwan Mahavir, there were very few Jains, but during his time, he could convince people that these are the correct things, these are the real laws of nature, you have to live with it for happiness and for various reasons, and people followed him. I think that is the path we have to choose. And this is the correct time. Actually, if you see the record in last 2 months, I'm told that the meat eating has gone down by about 20%. And this shortage will continue for next 6 months or something. People are not stealing. Robbery and thefts have gone down by about 40 or 50%. Road accidents have gone down by roughly 90% or more. And all this social distancing and so on. So all the 5 Mahavrats are being followed, which never happened before in, I think, the history of humanity. That so many people at the same time all over the world, because of this pandemic and fear of death and so on, they are following things precisely which are described in Jainism. So this is the right time. Only difference is that they are now doing by force, and they have to do this voluntarily, by knowingly that this is the right way of doing things. So I think there is no appropriate time better than present to either experimentally prove some things. In our book, which we, Samniji is one of the editors on that. We have mentioned various problems which can be proved experimentally and which can be presented to the world that, see, it is like this. So we have to have this two-pronged approach to do some scientific study and experimental work and prove to the world. And secondly, we have to tell them that this way of life they have been following, it has already improved the nature so much. You all know about it, how clear the sky is and how clear the ocean water has become, and how animals and birds and things have, are growing. So these are the proof enough that we are on the right path. Only we don't have an academic group in Jainism, which is very badly required.
I have one question. We follow in science also and in Jainism also the law of coexistence, right? Everything
Yes.
has importance. Now, if we remove insects, say bees, then the whole scenario may change. But there's one curious question. What is the importance of human species on the earth? If we remove the human species, it doesn't change anything on the earth. It's maybe a little philosophical question, but can you answer this question?
See, if you see the history of life on Earth, starting from, you see, when Earth was formed about 4.5 billion years ago, for 1 billion years, there was no life on Earth. These are all scientific evidence I am talking about. About 3.5 or 3.6 billion years ago, the single cell fungus appeared. And from there, it has grown to humans. Unfortunately, I mean, we are very egoistic. We think humans are the best. But we must note that all these species which are ever produced have become extinct one by one, and new ones are being produced. There have been 5 very catastrophic events in the history of life where more than 70% life, not living beings, but species have vanished. These catastrophic events have taken place. Now, we should not assume that man is the best. I think maybe nature has a better way, a better design. And I'm sure that it is imminent that humans will eventually become extinct and new species will be born, which will be much better than humans. This is what has been going on, because we got single cell, then multicellular beings, then we got birds and mammals and dinosaurs and humans.
Finally, the
So
humans.
this is the progress in which nature is working, and I think nature is going to continue. So whether we like or not, one day the earth will be without humans. But we should preserve humans, at least with single aim that we give enough time to nature to evolve something better out of us, and we don't die out of corona or this COVID-19. I mean, that will be ridiculous. Then the nature will start all over again.
No, everything taken. What I meant was, if we remove human species, there's no loss to the earth.
There is
But
a
if you
loss.
remove any other species, then there's a loss to the earth.
You see, in this particular sequence, which I said, the consciousness has been increasing. So human consciousness is the highest. And if you remove, the consciousness will decrease, and that is not really good. So
Maybe.
who will understand the universe if humans are not there? So that is one school of thought which says humans have been produced so that, and this is the most amazing thing many scientists have noted, it's amazing that we can understand the universe out of which we are the products. So taking away humans is not a solution. evolving to better humans or post-humans is a better solution, I would say.
Professor Bhandari, this is Kirti Jain. I have a question. By the way, I must congratulate you on a very thought-provoking presentation. But question relates to karma. You know, Purusharth allows us to determine our destiny. And at the same time, there is concept of predetermination of destiny, which is a part of Jain philosophy, like we knew about the divinity of Lord Mahavir. Now, you touched upon this concept of determinism in physics, which goes with the predetermination of Jainism. How do you kind of tally these various concepts of Purusharth or self-determination of destiny, predetermination?
See, actually, there is no conflict between science and Jainism. The science operates on two levels, the macro world and the micro world. The micro world works on quantum mechanics, the atoms, molecules, and all that. And that is probabilistic. That is same as what you say, to make a choice out of Purusharth. But when things become bigger, then we go into classical mechanics. Like you have a car and you know it running 60 kilometers per hour, then in 1 hour it will reach this much. After 10 days, it will reach how much and so on. You can calculate. So at very micro level, at the level of soul or at the level of your consciousness, the Purusharth is important. But once you come to gross life, then it becomes deterministic. So there was this conflict of between quantum mechanics and classical mechanics was there also in the beginning in the last century. But there is now we understand that there is no conflict. One is probabilistic, other is deterministic. And same thing about life. One is a free will or Purusharth or whatever you call it. And then it becomes Niyativad, which is based on your past karma. So determinism is nothing but your past karma. I hope I have made it clear, but we can discuss it more, I guess. But there's a similarity between physics and Jainism in these two things.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone has any question?
I would like to ask a question, Dr. Bhandari.
Yes, please.
I want to build on what Sapan asked you. And
yes,
let me tell you small history. All of us, Dr. Kirti Jain, Sapan, myself, and many people at FIU, Neptune Sahab, all the professors, we have this sincere wish of how we bring Jainism and Jain values and principles to the broader humanity. And that was the essence that Samni ji brought to us when we created the first research professorship at Florida International University. And our wish was that lots of people should at least understand the rationale behind Jainism. As you said, Jainism is driven by the law of causality, which is the foundation of science. Same thing happened when we created this professorships or what we call chairs in other universities. And I can tell you, being an academic, it was a quantum jump for universities to accept a chair in Jainism, because if they do in one religion, they have to do in other religions also. But it was a very big jump at FIU. I cannot tell you how big it is. I could not have done it at Northwestern. My point is, what Sapan said is, still, we have not been able to make a big dent in the minds of intellectuals in, I would just say, US, to get more interested in exploring what's behind Jainism. So someone asked you, what do you think we can do? Because you have a very big committed group of individuals, and not only committed, we are also willing to put resources. And when I say financial resources, I mean time resources. And our intentions are how the human life can become a source of pleasure if they follow some of the principles of Jainism. As you rightly pointed out, the people who are becoming vegans is increasing. Many of them know when I was the dean of Kellogg School, I reduced the consumption of meat, and we try to do this. But are there any other specific suggestions that you would advise that you have seen working in terms of how this is a calling, this is the purpose, and now we need to perform?
See, I have a limited perspective in this because depending on how I've been trained and what I've been doing in the last in my career. So my approach strictly will be an academic approach, and this is a century of knowledge and so on.
Yes.
So we should work on problems and prove, not post facto, that this is written in our agams, what you are saying, but go and present. And in these couple of books which we have written, we have many papers, and we ask some scholars to write down the problems which are solvable. So one clear problem, I mean, if you allow me, I'll say my personal understanding is that all the problems in the world is because people don't believe in karma theory. They think they can get away with it. Yes. But that is one thing we can prove. We have worked out that the ghati karma and agati karma are different pathways. We have theoretical worked out. Now it remains to be proved experimentally. One, the agati karma works through genes, the ghati karma works through neurons. So these things, you need laboratories and big facility. Unfortunately, the only problem is that, we are doing everything at a very, very subcritical level. And as you know about this nuclear explosion, that unless it reaches a critical neutron flux, it cannot explode. So we are doing small things here in Ahmedabad, or you are doing there in Florida, or here and there. We don't have a global base. You need some organization, you know how NASA operates, or ISRO operates, or Atomic Energy Commission operates. I mean, something not that big, but of that type. And real problem is human resources. Money probably will come if you do some good work. But human resources, people, I have talked to hundreds of people actually in the last 10 years about this. And everybody says it is a good idea, they are interested, but they don't have time. So unless we make a research institute, we have teaching, we write things, we don't even have proper journal in Jainism, a peer-reviewed one. Anybody can write anything and get away with it. I mean, those kind of things don't work. Yes. So we have a big plan, and Samniji knows about it. You can talk to her. We have been working under her guidance for many years. I think we have to make modules. That is what we have done. Our approach is to make small modules which can be experimentally or theoretically proved and then present to the world in their journals. For example, I'll tell you, the computers, they work on binary system, these coarse computers. Now only quantum computers are coming, which are working on probabilistic mechanism. But we have these 7 modes of predication. Saptabhangi, you know that. So nobody works on these 7 probabilities and gets a solution. I think that will be much more complete. So G.N. Ramchandran worked, he took 4 options and worked 4 solution. But most of these are binary systems, 0, 1, 0, 1, and they don't tell you all the possibilities. Now, of course, quantum computers people are working on. But I think it is time to introduce Jain logic of 7 possibilities and find solution. And I'm sure we can find solution to some problems which are unsolved. So like this, we have identified several problems which can be done, but we don't have people. Of course, you need a platform and you need funds and you need so many things. But I think it is doable. And if we don't do it, we'll be sorry, because I have here a list of about 50 things written in Agams which have been discovered by Western scientists in the last 400 years. And all the credit is going to them, including the particle wave duality is very clearly defined. So I feel very sorry. This is a very painful thing for me to go through. But if you want to join, do something, I think the time is right. And it is our duty, I believe. That is the urge with which we are working.
No, very good. I got it. You have
Okay,
given
sir.
good direction. No, you have given very good direction. I like the idea that it has to be taken from an academic perspective rather than purely from a religion side. Take it more as a scientific academic perspective and show the world the scientific foundations of Jainism.
Because that is what it is actually.
No,
It is
this
not a madhab. It is not a madhab like many others are, where
yes.
somebody has said something and it is okay. It is based on laws of nature. That is why it is eternal. I guess it will last. Whether Jainism lasts or not, I don't know. But the laws will last forever.
That is true. Very good point.
Jai Jinendra, Professor Bhandare.
Yes, sir.
This is Vijay Shah here in Miami. I know you felt, as anyone else would, that 50 things were discovered by other scientists which are already there in the Agams. What if they now did a post paper, a scientific post paper, which describes those things that are already discovered from a Jain perspective?
Yeah, it is there somewhere. I mean, we have written about it.
Well, it has, if the 50 things discovered by Western scientists is that famous, we obviously haven't done a good job about it.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is that we should do something new.
Yes, yes.
Not only which they have discovered and we say it is written, but something which is written and they have not yet discovered. That is what we should work on.
I agree on that
And,
point as well. Yes, but
so
often
I talked about consciousness is one thing, and so many people are working, Hammeroff and Penrose and so many big scientists. I mean, recognized scientists are working on these things, but they are, I think, on the wrong track. So, but for everything we need experts, you see. So it's a big platform is required, and if you can help with that, that will be great. We can all join and do that.
I'll say it just one more time to see if I can make some sense. When a theory in science is already proven by somebody else in the past, they'll go back and say, this was already done. So
Yes.
that's the point that I was trying to get across, that if we can market that better and then also work on new things.
Yeah. Both can be done together. I agree with you. One thing I mentioned is about this matter. 3 types of matter is mentioned in our literature, our scriptures. and science is working only one type of matter, and that is the visible matter. And now they say that because of gravity, they think there is another kind of matter, but they are not going to find it because it doesn't interact. So that is one very ripe area in which we can work. So that will be a big breakthrough, I personally believe. So there are like this a dozen problems we can identify, provided some experts are willing to work, and we have a proper platform or experimental facility to prove that.
Thank you. One final
you.
point is that the Western world is always looking at science from or technology or medicine or whatever from which they can commercialize it. So you mentioned earlier some good things in Jainism which can help solve world problems and give pleasure, source of pleasure by following certain Jain principles. If something like that can be marketed from a commercial point of view, then that can also be a good idea.
I haven't thought much about that commercial aspects, but
I know you're from an academic background. We fully appreciate your hard work.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I would request Professor Bhandari that there is one young guy, he wants to ask one question, and that will be the last question.
Sure.
So
Thank you. This is Himanshu from Miami. First of all, I'm really glad that we got an opportunity to listen to you. And I just wanted to ask, because I've been talking to Samniti on this theory as well, and I'm very intrigued by what Jainism has in terms of metaphysics and quantum physics. So I was just wondering, what steps should a normal person like me should take if you're interested and you want to pursue something in this field and make sure that we help all these theories of Jainism to become in the forefront of the modern science? So what are the steps that we should take?
I'm sorry, your voice was not very clear. Can you repeat the question, please?
So my question is, I was talking to Samniji and I was kind of very intrigued by what Jainism has in terms of metaphysics and quantum physics. So I was wondering, a normal person like us, how can we take part into this and help make sure that these theories of Jainism come into the forefront of modern science? How we can help?
Well, I don't know what your background is. I mean, but I think there is scope for everyone at every stage. We need all types of people, and I think we can. You can write to me separately on email or something, and we can discuss this further. But I don't know exactly what to suggest. What do you mean by common man? I mean, we are all common man here.
Definitely, I'll send you an email and we get forward.
Yeah, we all started like that. So there is always scope to learn and do things. I don't understand any limitation. I'm sure you can do as much as anybody else. But yeah, it is good if you send me an email, please.
Thank you so much.
okay.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Dr.
yeah,
Bhandari.
yeah. You can say it. Professor Deepak Jain.
No. I just want to thank you. I think I tell you, it was a source of from entanglement to enlightenment. This is how I describe.
Yeah. So we are very much thankful to Professor Bhandari for giving this first talk under the series of Acharya Mahapragya lecture series. And we have learned so many things, how in which direction we have to work actually to bring Jainism up or from academic or scientific point of view so that it can be widely accepted. So this is a very big steps and very small steps even, but we need, as Bhandari ji has said, that we need some active scholars or experts to work on these particular theories which are very scientific and very rational and at the same time very beneficial for humanity and for the planet. So I think Professor Deepak Jain and all our directors of JERF, they will think over it, and they
Yes.
will plan how we can develop such infrastructure, how we can provide a global forum for working to the scholars on these particular what we say theories, which are very scientific and beneficial for humanity. So that should be our future goal of JERF even. So I am very much thankful again to Professor Bhandari for coming for the talk, and we will always be in touch. Anybody has any questions, they can ask anytime through email, or they can have the contact number also, so they can talk on over phone also. So I would be very much glad to invite these type of erudite thinkers, scientists, and laborious scholars who are working intensively on Jainism from many years and doing very great job. So again, thanks to all audience,
Vandana.
organizers.
Thank you.
Vandana.
Yes.